Why is Raza important?
So I think the question for me could be as well why showing Raza now, knowing that the museum tries to show interesting and important artists. And I think that one very interesting point is that he's been living in France for 50 years. 50 years. He was already an adult, but a young adult, and he definitely left in the late 90s for going back to India where he died. And it's very interesting to see this kind of specific development where you have an artist arriving to maturity and which is still not as well known as he should in a country where he spent 50 years. And so we try to so that's why some people are asking me, why do you show the whole development? Of course, many works are missing. I think it's quite important to know that the Catalogue Raisonné is not finished, not published yet. So meaning that a certain number of things could be rediscussed, looked at, and so on. But where we are now, I think that it was very important, especially in Paris, because if he had a few shows in France, he never had a retrospective exhibition in a major exhibition institution. And so it was very important to show the development from the last years what we got from the last years in Mumbai up to now, of course, up to when he died, but passing through the forming years in the late 50s and the 60s in Paris, where he has been, but this is unfortunately the case for most of the non-Euro-American artists working and living there, which is École de Paris, which is on one hand making things easy because people know, or maybe they think they know what means École de Paris,
yes,
but which is also a little bit a curse because it's like banalizing in a way, or putting a kind of very large
but
label.
if we look at the colors of the painting, it's really not École de Paris.
No, absolutely. So, but it's quite interesting because when you go from the beginning up to now, you will see that the late 50s and till the late 60s, you still have a certain number, or you have colors, it's absolutely obvious. He looked at Nicolas de Stael, you have this blue, this red, this green. And after a certain moment, he's not discovering, he knows very well, but he comes back to miniature, another way of looking at miniature, another way of looking...
Indian miniature?
Indian miniature. We have one in the exhibition he always kept in his studio. So not discovering an Indian is not discovering miniature. He's looking back to the miniature and really trying to look differently, the composition, the colors, the potential of miniature in terms of what you can make out of it. And doing that also, because not any kind of miniature, more Rajasthan miniature with these unbelievable colors, which are, you have this kind of condensation.
Fauve colors. It's fire, no?
It's very, very intense, and of course it's really like articulating, because somebody would have killed me about the series with the earth, la terre, and the night, la nuit, and it's absolutely clear that you have to be a master in your technique and your thinking, in your mind, to in a way condense in a formal image what is coming from tradition, from the holy books, from miniature, and so on and so forth, and a kind of process of subjectivation, which is between melancholy. And sometimes you have a certain kind of darkness in his letters, and I think that the way he condensed a state of mind, a state of being, using these different references and traditions, whether they would be cultural, brand, and or formal. We have also to keep in mind, of course, he knew very well all the Indian books and myths.
What about modern? Because, modern contemporary, we think a lot about the style, you're right, when we look at his painting too.
Because he looked at the style, and when you look at the letters, because at this time you had no internet or no email, and he was a very, very furious, I would say, epistolier, I don't know in English, writing many letters on a daily basis. And I don't know the number, sometimes he was writing a letter per day to Krishan Khanna, who is also an amazing Indian artist, who is alive, who is really like one of the last modern masters.
But yes, what about the French ones? or,
the French,
or Western ones?
It looked at many things. It looked at Nicolas de Sales, but it looked at, but you have a certain, not bodies, but structures of houses. He looked at Balthus, and he looked at Buffet, Bernard Buffet. Somebody was laughing at me. I think.
And what about American abstraction?
This came later. Because he was invited to the States in the mid '60s. He went, and Christian Canard met him and joined, and then. Of course, he had the opportunity to go to New York, to go to the galleries, to meet with people, and it's not the only one. He looked at a lot at Rothko.
Uh-huh. What about Joseph Albers, in a way?
I think this is not as well documented, but he went to the galleries, so it's very difficult. I think it would be. Really,
but he didn't speak officially about big influences.
I mean, he speaks quite a lot about. Rothko. He also looked at Rauschenberg, even so it's not at all obvious the way you look at. So I think it's really like it came after. And when he was in Paris, what he was looking at was, and it's really when you think about he entered the La Vinci gallery in the 50s, very soon after coming to Paris. He got the Prix de la Critique, and it was the first time a non-Euro-American artist, or not even a non-French artist, would get this prize. Mm-hmm. And he became quite looked at, and he began to sell and having collectors and so on. And when you look at the way he would take when he would come from his studio to the gallery Rue de Seine, you just look at the programs of the time, and you can deduce what was on the vitrines. At that time you had many vitrines. But
he was successful commercially, right?
He was, I think, from a very early time, very successful commercially. So that's why it's very complicated. Even so, La Vinci, they kept a very good book with the titles, what was sold. Yeah. I suspect that you have also other works circulating in another way, and even more, of course, after he left La Vinci in 1970.
And went where?
He went, I think it's a good question. He went to different galleries. He was not at all mono gallery. Mm-hmm. So I think he was working with gallery, beginning with very good Indian gallery when he came back regularly and for longer and longer periods to India, like a Kemul gallery, which is a gallery initiated by Kiku Gandhi. We will show a movie on this amazing man, an amazing family, and but he was also showing with many different galleries in Paris. And when you look at the archive, you have from minor to bigger gallery. It was like tutti frutti.
Okay. Thank you. Merci.